Hi, fourth grade. I'm going to read chapter 3 right now from our story, Gold Rush Girl. And it's going to start, the action's going to start picking up pretty soon here. So stay tuned and post any comments that you have on our Google Classroom about what you think about the story. Okay, chapter 3. Father's place of employment, Pratt and Willinghast, which did a great deal of trade with France, went bankrupt. This unexpected and catastrophic event was the result of a violent revolution that occurred in the distant European country of France. When father lost his position, he lost his entire income, which is to say, our whole means of living. Let me be fair, it was not just father who experienced unemployment. Rhode Island, a commercial, manufacturing, and international shipping port, suffered an economic panic. Many professionals and wage-earning men were unable to find work. My father's predicament distressed him greatly. "I have failed my family," he told us while clutching his pocket watch, as if to display the evidence that he had been of value. Then, fairly groaning, he added, "Aunt Lavinia must not know." "I don't intend to tell her," agreed Mother, and she gave Jacob and me a severe look, which told us not to say anything either. As the days passed, Father kept insisting, "I shall find something," but in fact he did not. It was as if a failure in one part of his life spread to all. His lack of gainful employment shamed him into total inaction. As his joblessness continued, he sank into a deep, despondent melancholy, which is sort of like depression, and did little more than sit in the parlor, licking his thumb, so as to go through the newspaper. One night, wanting to encourage him, I felt best to remind him of something I had learned in Sunday school. Citing Proverb number 13-4, I said, "The soul of the sluggard desireth and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat." You sound like Aunt Lavinia. I was horrified. Was I, against all desire, all hope, becoming like her? No, I studied that proverb and decided it was much like the brave words of Jane Eyre. Your will shall decide your destiny. That said, we hardly knew what would happen to us. Father's spirits, already low, sank lower. And as you might guess, his situation caused tension at home. I believe it was that which caused Mother to become ill. Endlessly fatigued, she had severe headaches and constant feelings of stress. Dear old Dr. Laxton said that she was suffering from an illness I could hardly say, neurasthenia. I can hardly say it either. He insisted she rest in bed. With funds dwindling, we dismissed the servant, let go of the cook. Unable to pay the fees, Jacob stopped going to school. Since Mother was infirm, I, who did not believe in false pride, cooked and cleaned. Nonetheless, there soon came a time when our funds were so depleted that Aunt Lavinia had to be informed. How did she respond? "It must have been your husband's fault," she told Mother. All the same, she provided some monies that we might live. That made things worse. Now there was nothing she did not oversee. One of her orders? Victoria must take care of Jacob. Thus it was that Jacob came under my exclusive care. I fed him, laid out his daily clothing, solved whatever problems he encountered, heard his woes, his worries, and tried to smooth the wrinkles of his life. This was truly a change of living for me, but not the one I desired. I confess I found my life increasingly yawny. To choose your younger brother's day-to-day clothing, to stir his pudding, is not stimulating. As for living under the restrictive tyranny of my aunt, that was insufferable. Oh, how more than ever did I desire great change, something that would truly alter my entire life. Having decided I would not be like my father and do nothing or give way to the weakness like my mother who lay on the sofa, I extended my life outside Sheldon Street. That is, I took the rash and unusual step for one of my condition and age of securing a position at the dressmaker's shop. The proprietress being an acquaintance of mother's, I did this on my own. This employment, sewing dresses, let me earn 10 cents an hour. I told Jacob that when I was working, he would have to take care of himself. He was not pleased. Need I say it? We kept my employment a secret from Aunt Lavinia. Aside from the clothes work of sewing, I was given the task of arranging bolts of cloth. To my shock, they were quite heavy. At first, I despaired that I could never do the work, but determined to shrink from nothing, I found myself equal to the lifting task. Indeed, I actually became stronger. Why I was happy doing this? Was I? Of course I was. But had not I reminded myself Jane Eyre had been confronted with a cruel fate, orphaned, ill-treated by her aunt, abused at boarding school, only to rise high above it all. I chose to take my circumstances as a test of my will. While father did not object to my working, his pride was such that he refused to take my earnings. I therefore saved my money and imagined solving our family crisis by someday saying, "Here, I have labored hard. Take the money I have earned and hoarded. We shall not starve." I constantly practiced that speech. But before I could give over my money, our lives changed at once. It was late November of 1848 when reports began to swirl through Providence that gold had been discovered in the West, in California. California is the immense territory which had just been annexed by the United States after our recent war with Mexico. The rumors insisted that this California gold could be acquired by merely bending over and plucking nuggets from the ground. As you might imagine, this prospect brought considerable excitement to Rhode Island, an economically distressed community. As a result, many of unemployment decided to rush west. The sudden fervor exemplified the saying, "Wealth inspires many, but easy wealth inspires multitudes." When these reports of California gold first began to circulate, father dismissed them as no more than a wild goose chase. "Such fabulous stories cannot be true," he insisted. Not long after, however, it was in early December of 1848, father gathered us around mother's sofa. With barely suppressed excitement, he read aloud from the Providence Journal what the President of the United States, the Honorable James Polk, had stated to the United States Congress about California. And this is a quote from Congress. It's in quotation marks. "The accounts of the abundance of gold in that territory are of such an extraordinary character as would scarcely command belief were the stories not corroborated by the authentic reports of officers in the public service." Father put down the newspaper, looked around at his mystified family with a flushed face full of excitement, and said, "Did you hear those words? Gold of such an extraordinary character." The president, my father stressed, would not lie. "It seems to me," he went on with more life than I had seen from him in weeks, "that since I cannot solve our financial problems here, I should go to California, where I can gather my share of this abundant gold. As soon as I do, all of our problems will be solved, and I shall also show Aunt Lavinia the kind of man I am." How like father, the ever-careful man. It took someone of the highest authority, the President of the United States, higher even than Aunt Lavinia, to give him, as it were, permission to radically change his situation. I had once seen a foot race at Jacob's school, in which a man began the contest by shooting off a pistol. Father's decision to go west was a pistol shot for me. When I heard my father's unexpected words, my heart trilled. Here was an adventure and excitement delivered directly into my family. Here was a way I could escape Aunt Lavinia, which is to say, from the moment I heard Father's words, I discovered my destiny. I too must go to California. So that's chapter 3. So as you can see, it's going to pick up now. I hope you guys are enjoying it. And post a quote, and I will read from chapter 4 very soon. Take care.